If this story moved you, we'd love to know. Where in the world are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below, and let's see how far this story has traveled. Your thoughts truly matter, and every comment helps us grow a global community of story lovers. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss tomorrow's special episode. A new story is waiting, one that might just touch your heart even more. Until then, stay kind, stay curious, and thank you for being part of this journey. The sun had just dipped below the New York skyline, casting a warm amber glow over the streets of Manhattan. Inside a high-end restaurant tucked between Fifth Avenue and East 64th Street, soft jazz played beneath the quiet hum of dinner conversations. Silverware clinked against fine china, and the scent of rosemary and butter floated gently through the air. Everything felt elegant, intimidatingly so. For Sophie Lane, a 27-year-old waitress from Brooklyn who had never dined somewhere where the napkins were pressed into perfect fans. She paused outside the large glass doors, her reflection staring back at her. Her dress, which she'd found at a thrift store for $12, looked a little too vintage against the modern backdrop. Her shoes had small scuffs on the sides, and she could still feel the faint ache from walking 5 blocks after the subway stalled. Still, she had promised Olivia, her best friend and relentless matchmaker, that she'd show up for this blind date. With a deep breath, Sophie walked in. Clutching her phone, she whispered under her breath, "Table 8, Table 8." Her eyes scanned the room, searching for a friendly face. Then she saw him, seated alone in the back, wearing a crisp navy blazer, dark hair neatly styled, scrolling through his phone. He looked slightly out of place too, quiet, thoughtful, maybe even a little nervous. That had to be him. She approached with a hopeful smile. "Hi," she said, trying to sound confident. "You must be Ryan. I'm Sophie." The man looked up, startled. For a brief moment he blinked, visibly confused. But before he could speak, Sophie slid into the chair across from him, her heart thumping hard. "I know," she said with a small laugh. "Blind dates are weird, right? Olivia said you might be the quiet type. That's okay. I talk enough for both of us." Nathan Cole, 34, founder of one of the fastest-growing tech companies in the country, sat frozen. Just moments ago, his business meeting had been cancelled, and last minute, and he had decided to stay for a quiet dinner. Now, this woman, so open, so real, was sitting across from him, completely unaware of who he was. He could have corrected her right away. He should have. But something about her, the way she smiled without calculation, the way her eyes darted around the room nervously, was refreshing. Different, unlike the boardroom charmers and glamorous socialites he usually encountered. So, Nathan smiled. "Yeah," he said, "blind dates really are something else." And just like that, the evening took an unexpected turn. One that neither of them could have predicted. One that would eventually change both their lives. What began as a simple mistake would soon become the start of something far deeper than either of them ever expected. Sophie couldn't believe how easy the conversation became. For someone who had walked into the restaurant with shaky hands and a pounding heart, she now found herself laughing, really laughing, over stories about spilled coffee, difficult customers, and her dream of opening an art studio someday. Nathan listened intently, his arms resting loosely on the table, his eyes never leaving her. There was something magnetic about her. No pretense. No filter. Just pure, honest energy. She told him about her tiny apartment in Brooklyn, just under 500 square feet, with cracked tile floors and a bathroom that whined every time she flushed. She joked about budgeting down to the last dollar, how she survived on dollar-slice pizza after double shifts, and how her mum, despite working 2 jobs, still mailed her $10 every now and then, labeled emergency snacks. Nathan chuckled, nodding along. He was used to luxury. His Manhattan penthouse sat 60 stories above the city, his fridge filled by assistants, his days planned by the minute. But here he was, talking to a woman who saw beauty in things he'd forgotten to notice. The way she described her art, how sketching gave her peace after long days, reminded him of something he hadn't felt in years, passion that wasn't tied to profits. So, Sophie leaned in. You said you work in tech. Nathan hesitated. Yeah, kind of. Startups mostly. She grinned. Like apps and websites. I'm so bad with that stuff. I once crashed my laptop trying to download a font. He laughed. Yeah, something like that. The truth was, he wasn't just a tech guy. He was the Nathan Cole, founder of Gridpoint Labs, valued at over $800 million. But tonight, that didn't matter. Not to her. And for the first time, not to him either. As dinner went on, their plates grew empty, but the space between them filled with stories, jokes, and a strange, growing sense of familiarity. Sophie felt it too, a warmth in her chest she hadn't expected from a stranger. He didn't interrupt, didn't try to impress her, and didn't seem to mind when she started rambling about art supplies and overdue rent. You're not what I expected, she said quietly, glancing at him over her glass of water. Nathan raised an eyebrow. What were you expecting? Sophie shrugged. Honestly, a guy who only talks about himself. Or someone who checks his phone the whole time. You're easy to talk to. Nathan smiled. You are too. But just as her nerves began to melt away, her phone buzzed. Hey Sophie, I'm at table 8. Looking forward to meeting you. Ryan, her breath caught in her throat. She stared at the screen, her face slowly draining of color. She looked up at Nathan, a nervous tremble in her voice. You're not Ryan, are you? The look on his face said everything. No, I'm not. And just like that, the perfect evening took a turn. The spark was real. The laughter had been honest, but it was all built on a misunderstanding. And Sophie's heart began to crash just as fast as it had lifted. Sophie didn't sleep that night. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling of her tiny Brooklyn apartment. The sound of city traffic muffled beneath the weight in her chest. Every second replayed in her mind. The laughter, the stories, the way he looked at her like she was the most interesting person in the room. And then, that moment, that message, that sinking realization. He wasn't Ryan. She had shared so much with him. Her dreams, her struggles, her heart, and the whole time, he'd let her believe a lie. He could have said something, anything, but he didn't. The next morning, her best friend Olivia found her in the kitchen, still in pajamas, clutching a cold cup of coffee like it could anchor her to reality. I made a complete fool of myself, Sophie mumbled. Olivia, wide-eyed, listened as Sophie told her everything, from the mistaken identity to the text from the real Ryan. When she got to the part where she ran out of the restaurant, cheeks burning with embarrassment, Olivia tried not to smile. Sophie, she said gently, he might have lied, yeah, but it kinda sounds like he really liked you. Sophie scoffed. He liked pretending to be someone else. That's not romantic. It's manipulative. But the truth was more complicated. Miles across the city, Nathan sat in his penthouse, untouched, espresso cooling on the marble counter. His assistant, Claire, entered the room with a tablet in hand, pausing when she saw the look on his face. You okay? She asked. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he walked over to the massive windows, watching as yellow taxis crawled through traffic below. I met someone, he said finally. By accident. She thought I was someone else, and I let her believe it. Claire's eyebrows lifted. Let me guess. You didn't tell her who you are. Nathan shook his head slowly. She talked to me like I was normal. Not a tech, mogul, not a headline, just a guy. I didn't want that to end. Claire crossed her arms. Well, it has now, so what are you going to do? He didn't have an answer, but he knew he couldn't stop thinking about her. Days passed. Sophie tried to shake it off, tried to convince herself it didn't matter. But every time she passed that restaurant on her way to work, her chest ached a little. Every time her phone buzzed, A part of her hoped it was him. And then, one afternoon, it was. A simple message. "Hey Sophie, it's Nathan, the guy from the restaurant. I know it was a mix-up, but I'd really like to see you again. Just coffee. No pretending." She stared at the screen, her heart thudding. Olivia peeked over her shoulder. "Well?" she asked, grinning. Sophie bit her lip, her thumb hovering over the screen. Her pride told her to ignore it, to move on. But something softer inside her whispered, "What if it's real?" After a long pause, she typed back, "Okay, coffee sounds nice." The little cafe Nathan picked was nothing like the upscale places Sophie imagined a billionaire might frequent. It was cozy, tucked between a laundromat and a flower shop, with creaky wooden floors and the smell of cinnamon and fresh espresso in the air. When she walked in, he was already there, dressed in jeans and a grey sweater, looking nothing like the man in those tech magazine covers she had once stumbled across online. "Hi," Sophie said cautiously, sliding into the seat across from him. "Hey," Nathan replied, his voice calm but full of hope. "Thanks for coming." They talked, carefully at first. Nathan apologized, admitting that he should have told her the truth the moment he realized the mix-up. But he hadn't lied to hurt her. He had just wanted to be seen, for once, as a person, not a paycheck, not a public figure. Sophie listened, arms folded, skeptical but curious. She didn't know what to believe. Yet, as the minutes passed, his words didn't feel rehearsed. He didn't try to impress her. He didn't throw money around. He asked about her art, her mum, her dreams. And when she laughed, really laughed, for the first time since that night at the restaurant, she hated that part of her still wanted to trust him. As the weeks passed, Nathan kept showing up, not with expensive gifts, but with presence. He walked her home after late diner shifts, helped her carry groceries up 4 flights of stairs, listened when she ranted about her manager or gushed about a new sketch, and slowly, against her better judgment, Sophie let him in again, but he still hadn't told her everything. One Friday evening, Sophie stood at a charity auction where she had volunteered to help organize silent bids. The event was being held in a glamorous downtown venue. Far from her usual world, she was busy arranging items on a display table when a wave of energy rippled through the room. "Who's that?" one of the other volunteers whispered, pointing toward the entrance. Sophie turned, and her heart nearly stopped. Nathan, dressed in a sleek tailored suit, smiling and shaking hands. The event coordinator stepped onto the stage and tapped the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are honored to welcome our guest of honor, Mr. Nathan Cole, whose generous contributions have made tonight possible." The crowd erupted in applause. But Sophie stood frozen, her stomach in knots, her heart pounding in her ears. He hadn't just been successful, he was famous, influential, and she was the last to know. When the crowd thinned, she made her way toward him, fury building with every step. Nathan spotted her immediately, his face falling as he read her expression. "We need to talk," she said, her voice tight. He nodded, following her into a quiet hallway. "So," she began, arms crossed, "you're that Nathan Cole." "I wanted to tell you," he said quickly, voice shaking. "But I was afraid the truth would ruin what we had." Sophie's eyes narrowed. "You didn't give me the chance to decide that for myself." And just like that, the fragile trust they'd built began to shatter. Sophie didn't speak to Nathan for days. After confronting him at the charity gala, she left without looking back. The betrayal cut deep, not just because he had lied, but because she had started to believe in them, started to imagine a future. And now, all of that felt like smoke, something beautiful she could see but never quite hold. Back in her apartment, Sophie sat surrounded by her sketchbooks, trying to focus, trying to reclaim her peace. But every drawing reminded her of him, of how he'd encouraged her, how he'd made her believe her art mattered, and that only made it worse. I don't know what's real anymore, she admitted to Olivia one night, her voice raw. Maybe what matters is what felt real, Olivia said softly. But you deserve someone who's honest with you, Soph. No secrets, no masks. Across the city, Nathan sat at his office desk, sleepless and distracted. Her words haunted him. You didn't give me the chance to decide that for myself. Claire, his assistant, entered the room holding a folder, but paused when she saw his expression. You're still thinking about her, she said. Nathan didn't deny it. I messed up, he whispered. I didn't just lie. I took away her choice, and I might have lost her forever. Claire folded her arms. Then don't just say you're sorry. Show her. Do something that proves how much you believe in her. That's when the idea hit him. For the next 2 weeks, Nathan poured himself into a plan. He tracked down the small, run-down art gallery Sophie had always talked about. The one she used to pass by on her way home and whisper, someday. He bought the building, renovated it quietly, and curated the first exhibit entirely with her work. Sketches he had collected, pieces she'd given him, even a few she thought no one had ever seen. The gallery was transformed into a warm, glowing space full of her vision and spirit. Then he left a note on the front desk. Your art deserves the world, just like you deserve the truth. Let me try again. Nathan. That evening, Olivia led a blindfolded Sophie down the street. Where are we going? Sophie asked, half laughing, half nervous. You'll see. When Olivia took off the blindfold, Sophie froze. The sign above the gallery read, The Art of Sophie Lane, Special Exhibit. Her breath caught. Inside, every wall held a part of her story, her struggles, her hope, her dreams, and standing quietly in the center of the room was Nathan. He didn't speak right away. He just looked at her, eyes vulnerable. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, he said softly, but I couldn't let you go without showing you how much you mean to me. This gallery, it's not about me, it's about you, about everything you've worked for. Tears filled Sophie's eyes as she looked around, overwhelmed. I'm not asking for everything back, Nathan said, voice steady. Just one more chance to get it right. She stood there, heart racing, torn between fear and love. And then, with a quiet voice, she whispered, Maybe. Some things are worth a second chance. We hope this story touched your heart as much as it touched ours. Sometimes, the most unexpected mistakes lead us to the people who change our lives. Sophie sat at the wrong table, but maybe it was the right moment. Now, we want to hear from you. Have you ever had a wrong table moment that turned out to be a blessing in disguise? Or maybe you've been in a situation where trust was broken. Did you give someone a second chance or walk away for good? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Whether it's a story, a memory, or just how this video made you feel, we read every message, and your words mean the world to us. Also, let us know where in the world you're watching from. It's amazing to see how love stories connect us all, no matter the distance. And if this story inspired you, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. A brand new story is coming tomorrow. One filled with hope, heartbreak, and maybe even a little magic. Until then, stay kind, stay brave, and never stop believing in second chances.